It's a whirlwind battle you won't want to miss. 4 wild superheroes against 4 wild superheroes. Sit back, fans. It's a wow hour of power.
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
For the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion of the world.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
All right, listeners out there, you ready? Here we go. How you doing? This is Mr. Green, and you are listening to The Rights and the Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. And we have, I guess, one of the bigger matches that took place inside of WoW over the course of this episode 32, titled Even the Score. So, let us get to this and go through the standard 4 matches that WoW likes to present week in and week out. There is one thing that I wish that they would do with that. I get that that's their format and that they like to do it, but you know, it would probably be good for them every once in a while. They did it once in that horrible episode that they put off in the Comic-Con thing. But if they could just make it less predictable. Predictability isn't bad. But every once in a while, you know, you might want to have a match that can exceed past a commercial break, just for the sake of not change, but getting rid of fans resting on their laurels. I mean, if they watch this show long enough, if you've seen it for a couple of weeks, you would probably know that at some point, all right, it's 15 minutes past the hour, this match is about to end. Or it's bottom of the hour, it's 11:30 at night, this match should be over with now. Or we going to the next one. Or, okay, it's 11:45, time for the main event, and they're clearly not going to go past that, so we'll know who's winning. You know, just there's not a sense of unpredictability as it relates to their wrestling program. I mean, I know it's hard to do that in a taped environment, but it lacks unpredictability just in the format that is in. I mean, taped or not. But again, you know, that's kind of a different thing. So we'll leave that alone and we'll move on into the review that WoW has. Again, 4 matches. The matches that they had for the show: Amber Rodriguez versus Stephy Slays, Randi Rah Rah and Coach Campanelli versus the Disciplinarian and GI Jane, of course, with Samantha Smart. The third match is Sanchez, Sylvia Sanchez and Vivian Rivera taking on Jessie Jones and Americana. And of course, the main event, the match that the show is built around mostly is the Fabulous 4 versus the Island Dynasty. Now, this is the match, again, that is mainly built around, and of course, as it should be, these are your main event players. I don't remember if I said it in the previous podcast, but I will say it now. I wished that this would have had a little bit more build up to it. It just seemed that it was relatively quick when they could have gotten something bigger off of it, I think. But, you know, we will get to that as we get to it. I'm sure if not now, I'll bring it up again because this is a norm here, is that, you know, they build up the stuff week to week. You know, it's about filling out the television. It's about making sure that, hey, we got another good match here for the week. There is no, and I'm talking about it now, so I might as well just go ahead and get it out. But there is no pay-per-view on the horizon, or premium event if you're WWE, or live streaming event, or whatever. There's none of that exists for a while. So there's no chapter in or hallmark or milestone that they try to get to that these shows lead into. They just go from one thing to the next. It's just week to week to week to week to week. And I get the impression that this particular match, the 4-on-4, the Fabulous Four versus the Island Dynasty, as nice as the match might have been, and we'll talk about that, it didn't get, in my view, the build that it should have had. This should have, and again, I'm going to repeat myself quite a bit here. In my view, this should have been a stronger feud between the two. There's hard feelings there. This has been going on for, especially when you're roping in the Tonga Twins and Sweet Heat. There should be hard feelings there. And Tiki Chamorro, they've essentially attempted to bully her. They cheated Makoa out of the championship. So you would think there would be a little bit more to it than that. I mean, in terms of building it to this point. Yeah, there was fierceness in the match, and yeah, there was fire and heat, but it wasn't. It just wasn't a strong build to get to this point where it was like, man, I have to see this. It just was what it was. The show starts the way that the show always starts. It kicks off the segment or the episode with telling you what is going to be the main event for the evening. And as I just said, it is the 8-person tag, the 4-on-4, however you want to get that. Once you get past that, then you're going into the normal episodes. You're talking Amber Rodriguez, as I just said, without her partner. Gigi Gianni is not there with her this time. And Stephy Slays, who is, I guess a up-and-coming wild superhero. She's still kind of building herself up, and she's getting to that. So, excuse me. Maybe there is a future there for her, without getting trampled and beaten, all the time. This is a cold match, as a lot of them are. There's really nothing here. There's no angle or storyline that's underneath it. It's just a match to kind of fill time. It feels like. It's basic and it's decent, and again, there's how can you really complain about it? It's just a match for the sake of having these young ladies look good on TV and filling out the time. As I said, WoW insist on having 4 matches per episode. The exception being the Los Angeles Comic-Con episode. Then they did 3. But they had a lot of filler in that with, backstage vignettes and Candy Crush being scared out of her boots going into the haunted mansion or whatever it was. So if you check out the match, it is a fairly moderate pace. Rodriguez looks good. Steffi looks good too. And as much as I have given Keita Rush credit as one half of the Bully Busters and somebody that largely is all WoW trained, I would say Stephy Slays deserves some of that also. She deserves that she has worked a little more and or at least her presentation has gotten a little stronger, I think. There was a spot that took place in this match with Rodriguez, and if you get the chance, go and find this. I mean, it is uploaded on their YouTube right now. But there's a spot in the match where Slays takes Rodriguez down. She's laying in the middle of the ring after, following, what was it, a hip toss, I believe. And Slays goes for the cover, couldn't get her, but she goes like, hey, I'm going to go, and after she's pushed off by Rodriguez, goes towards her feet. Let's just say like, hey, I'm going to put her in the figure four. That's kind of the mode. I mean, she never actually got a chance to grab her feet because Rodriguez kicked Slays' feet out from underneath her. And that in and of itself wasn't what I wanted to see. But when Slays goes down, and I'm not sure if she intended to do this or Rodriguez intended to do this or it's just an overall botch, but the kick in the left knee makes Slays go down. But when she comes down, her head comes down on Rodriguez's right knee. And right knee and shin. I was like, okay, that could not have been planned. That couldn't have been planned. Would it have been a nice move if it had been worked out that way? Yes. But when she got kicked and she came down, I'm pretty sure she just dropped and her head just happened to come across the knee, which I know she felt that. I know she did, because I was like, good grief, that did not look nice. I mean, she continued the match, shook it off. Wasn't like she was bleeding or she got a big lump on her head or something like that. So it wasn't a super duper injury, but again, I think it's probably a little unfortunate, and I'm sure it hurt because wrestling hurts. I know people don't want to believe that, but it actually is true. Wrestling does hurt. Okay, so going towards the end of the match, because all the other things that take place in here, I'm not going to say aren't important, but they, we have other things to get to. Again, Slays is hanging in here in this match. That early in her career, she would pretty much get overpowered / dominated and all that stuff like that. But she actually made it, or I don't know if it was she alone, but she was able to make this look very competitive and stay in there with Rodriguez. The end of this match takes the gory bomb attempt from Rodriguez on Slays. Slays, in setting this up, picture, if you will, Rodriguez is across the ring inside of the corner of the turnbuckles. She gets monkey flipped out of the corner, and Slays comes up to try to get the pin. Now, Rodriguez doing the normal heel thing. Please, no, don't touch me. But when Slays charges in, drop toe hold, and Slays goes face first now into the second turnbuckle. From the bottom, Rodriguez picks her up, goes for what looks to be a gory bomb. Now, maybe the editors should have trimmed this down a little bit, because it seems like Rodriguez was waiting on Slays to get in her position so she could turn that into a backslide, which is what she did. It just took a couple of seconds to really kind of hook it in and get down and get the pin. And that's what happens. Slays gets out of the gory bomb, unhooks herself from Rodriguez's control, rehooks the arms on the way, and turns it into a backslide. Amber Rodriguez is defeated. So the inexplicable heel, Amber Rodriguez, loses another one. And I'm really questioning what she went to being a heel for in the first place, because she has gained nothing. She hasn't gained anything partnering up with Gigi Gianni. They lost immediately their first time out as a team. They've lost consistently since then. They clearly cannot be looked at as any sort of viable contender to anything under the sun. Amber Rodriguez has not won anything but by taking the cheap or quick or easy route by turning into a heel. So not sure where that was going with either. And if we go beyond that, it's not like the show was lacking in heels. Like, oh man, we just lost somebody. We gotta get another heel in here. Except for Gambino left, so they just swapped her out. But then, as I'm looking at this match, like, well, okay, Gianni went like 2 or 3 weeks as a single. when they were singing the praises of, hey, her partner left and now she's on her own and look at her go and all that stuff like that. And now she's back into a tag team, which that tag team did not appear here. It just went into singles. So I don't know, necessarily what direction they're going with here, other than, like I said, there appears to be times in the course of the show that they just have to get matches in just to kind of feel. And I understand that. You got an hour, and you got a weekly program, and you got to provide that program through syndication all the time. So, yeah, I get it. It's just, when you look at it in the terms of the rules of the universe that they created, sometimes the events in their universe don't make a lot of sense. The next segment was a recap of the main event for the title with Pink and Makoa. It's the same thing I just told you at the beginning, where they recap Makoa losing and what set up this 8-person tag. So we can move beyond that. Segment 4, we're backstage in Randi Rah Rah 2.0 in Coach Campanelli's favorite location, which is apparently the green room or the dressing room. And here's another vignette, and I cannot say that it's totally played up for comedy, but it is lighthearted. So you got Campanelli and you got Rah Rah, and they're in there doing their thing and they're talking and what have you. And then come Samantha Smart. And I forgot, you have to set this up, and that her whistle, Coach Campanelli's whistle, is nowhere to be found. And then now here comes Samantha Smart. Smart comes back, and gives them a little lip, and then she returns. Well, I should say returns, even though that's what she did. She kind of tosses it to him like she found it somewhere. And once she gives it to Coach, Rah Rah's like, "Oh, can I blow the whistle, please, please, please?" And now she's all right. Well, just one time. So Randi Rah Rah is like a 5-year-old. And that, yeah, I get to blow the whistle, yay! So she takes the whistle and she puts it in her mouth, and she's unable to blow it for whatever reason. Campanelli's like, see, this is why I blow the whistle, but now it's clear and evident that the whistle is stuck, and Rah Rah can't get it out of her mouth. Apparently, I wrote down, this is some fast acting glue, which is sealed instantly. That the moment that Rah Rah used it, and this is where you have to just kind of give concession to TV magic. So we'll just assume that this high industrial strength glue settled in the second that Rah Rah put it around her mouth. And the note that I had underneath this is, isn't Samantha Smart supposed to be in a feud with the Mother Truckers? And that was highlighted because now we're going off into something else. So anyway, and I guess they'll get back to that at some point. So of course this vignette leads into the next match, which is the Disciplinarian and her new partner GI Jane, with their manager Samantha Smart taking on Coach Campanelli and Randi Rah Rah. Now again, we go into a kayfabe universe mode. At what point would it have been smart for somebody who had something physically glued in their mouth to decide to go and do something physical anyway? I mean, really, what smart person would do that? If anything, like, you're coming out here with this whistle stuck in your mouth and you decide to wrestle the match anyway. So the story there is that this whistle is supposed, now that it's stuck and she can't really open her mouth, her breathing is compromised. I guess she cannot breathe through her nose either, but I can understand they're saying that it's not as, the airflow isn't as good as it would be. So, hey, I understand. But why is she there in the first place? If I'm a heel and I'm standing across the ring and I know what we did, We put some fast-acting industrial glue in this thing, and now it's stuck in your mouth, and I see you come out here with this thing, and I'm going to rip that thing out of your mouth. Just pull on the strap, because the strap is still there. I'm going to pull on this as hard as I can and yank it out of your mouth, because he was stupid enough to come in here. This match either should have been canceled or it should have been changed, because clearly David McLean will do whatever is needed to make the baby faces happy. He's not an impartial matchmaker. He just, as long as you're a baby face, you'll get what you want. So they should just came out here and like, all right, look, I can't do this. She can't wrestle. But they did it anyway. So now we have the match, and we've got a compromise Randi Rah Rah. And, I forgot, I did go a little too fast there and saying they started the match. What I forgot was that Samantha Smart cut a promo. And I definitely should not overlook that, because that's one of the things that I have gone on and on about with WoW, is that some of these people here, the managers in particular, need to be able to speak. Well, all of them need to be able to speak, but if you're trying to justify your position or justify your pay or why you're a manager, you definitely need to be able to speak. You need to be able to get up there and talk and let people know what's going on. Now, she didn't say all that much. She gave I guess what you would consider the normal heel shtick. She comes out with the bottle of glue. Now, I don't know if everybody that was in the audience could see it, but, we understand because we've seen the vignette first, and she's got her mouth stuck, and now the commentators have talked about it ad nauseum. So, all this is fine, and more importantly, like I said, get into what Smart was doing with the promo. At least she got in there, and she was willing to be just mean and a jerk, and tell everybody shut up, and do the normal manager stuff. Now, again, was there a lot of substance in that? No, it's not like she was cutting one of the great heel promos in wrestling, much or WoW, much less wrestling. But she relayed to the live audience what has happened, which I'm sure is the primary reason why she got the microphone anyway, because I'm assuming that they didn't see whatever vignette allowed you to know that this whistle is in her mouth, and they need to know why this woman who's coming out here in a cheerleading outfit has this whistle and does not take it out through the entirety of the match. So that is the story, and that she has a hard time breathing. The heels, of course, are enjoying this, and they're laughing at her and all that good stuff like that. And Campanelli is, for the most part, seemingly in a handicap match. So, Rah Rah starts it out with GI Jane. And we're not going to do a blow for blow here, but we're going to go to the important parts. The important part here is that Rah Rah seemed not to be all that high strung about what they did to her until she got a tag. It's like, okay, the camera's on me now, so now I have to play that part. Which I didn't particularly care for. I thought, I was like, okay, this seems just, the timing of that just felt odd. It felt like, why aren't you out there yelling at her now? Why aren't you chasing somebody? If you're so incensed by this, why is it that you just got to the point where as soon as I tag, now I'm mad at you? And mad, and I don't mean mad like she took the tag and ran across the ring and beat everybody up. I mean mad like she took the tag and then jumped down to the floor and started yelling. Well, not yelling. She couldn't yell. But mad like she jumped down to the floor and gave the evil eye. You know what I mean? And now just starts pointing at Samantha Smart and stuff like that. And I shouldn't say the tag. She did not tag. She actually walked away from her partner. Campanelli, again, like I said, she was in mostly in the beginning phase I guess what you would consider a handicap match. There was a tag to a slap to the wrist, but Rah Rah did not get in. She just started looking at Samantha Smart jumped down to the floor and more or less just kind of walked away around the ringside like she was going to go after Smart. So she was the legal person despite the fact that the referee didn't count or anything like that. She just, I got to get my hands on her or something like that. The disciplinary jumps down and prevents that, though. So we have this going on, and not maybe 30 seconds into this match when she actually gets into the ring, she, does the mimicking the old I can't breathe deal, and Samantha Smart's giving her lip on the outside, and I'm sure she's doing what she can to hold, to actually hold this thing in her mouth, because I would hope there's not actual glue. So we have this, and Rah Rah is now the weak link, and it is a lot of pantomiming of her inability to breathe. And her being mad at Samantha Smart, who didn't really get a chance to cheat like she should have, but she at least tried. This is not Rah Rah. This is the Disciplinarian and GI Jane's kind of not shining moment. The spotlight is more on the babyface team, but this did well for them, for the heels here. They were able to, actually start getting a win. The Disciplinarian had been so, done so badly in the beginning phases, particularly with her original partners, that, I almost kind of lost hope that she would ever be in anything meaningful. But now she's actually on a heel team that has scored a few wins. So at the end of this, we got the Disciplinarian in the ring. Campanelli shoots her across, takes her into the corner. And for whatever reason, Randi Rah Rah decides to tag herself in, even though she's unable to breathe. And we've made it very clear that she can't breathe. She tries to go charging across the ring, but then she stops because she sees Samantha Smart. And that gives just enough time, because of her stupidity, to the Disciplinarian to get up there and put a sleeper on her. Now, she is already shown that she can barely breathe. So the story is clear here in that the Disciplinarian is just going to put her out. The part that got me with here is that you got the Disciplinarian with a sleeper on her, but that wasn't enough. And on the one hand, I get the fact that she's a heel and she had to do some heel stuff, but couldn't you do it behind the referee's back? Couldn't you at least do it behind the ref's back? So she takes Rah Rah down to the mat, and she's she got the sleeper locked in, and we're clear it's not a choke. She's got a sleeper in. But as she's going down, the Disciplinarian takes her right hand and clamps the nose of Randi Rah Rah at the same time. So we got a half sleeper and her nose. Now she's just being suffocated. And it's not like the referee made any attempt to blame, hey, let that go or disqualified or nothing, because he just let it happen. She goes down. He calls the match, and the Disciplinarian GI Jane win. So on the one hand, I am happy that the Disciplinarian GI Jane won. They needed to win. On the other, I'm like, don't make the referee look like a complete idiot. At least try to do these things behind his back. Turn the body. Samantha Smart, get out there, yell at him, get his something. GI Jane, tap his shoulder, whatever. Just long enough so that the Disciplinarian could have pinched the nose and put her down, which is what she did. And, we get the story across. And that's all the story was. It was, they got outsmarted. And against the better judgment of any reasonable person, Rah Rah got into the ring and decided to wrestle when she should have been in the hospital to begin with. Even though they started talking about, I guess she's going to the hospital afterwards. I mean, it was just ridiculous and an act of babyface stupidity to get in there in the first place. So Team Smart wins. Yay. Or I guess if I'm going to be, representing the fans, boo. We got another show recap going into the next segment, which preps for Exile versus Princess Ozzy and Candy Crush. Or at least that's what it seems. We are, only time will tell. Next segment is the third match of the night, which is Sylvia Sanchez and Vivian Rivera, Sophia Lopez's new team, and of course she's out there with them, going against Jessie Jones and Americana. Now, as much as I gave crap to the last match, I have to do a little bit here as well. So we got Sanchez and Rivera come out, and do the old heel thing. Jessie Jones and Americana come out next. Americana comes out first, Jessie Jones comes out after, and she's got this large brace on her knee and crutches. And despite that, she's insisting, like, I got a match, I got to wrestle. Clearly she could barely move, but I got a match. I need to wrestle. Again, it's the babyface thing of I'm going to fight through this, regardless of what situation I'm in. We just saw a babyface attempt to fight through something in the previous match, and now we got another one that's coming out here to try to fight through a situation that they got no reasonable idea to try to fight through, or no reasonable reason to try to fight through. Just look, sit down. You can't move. And I would, now going back to how she got injured by the Heavy Metal Sisters, I wish they had done more to try to really accentuate an injury, because people get hit in the chairs all the time. Like, how is this one the one that cracked her knee or whatever the case may be? And I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but it would have been nicer, at least for TV, if the attack was more vicious. A couple of, several chair shots, and if the camera wasn't right there to show you that the chair actually didn't connect. It would have been nice if those things had taken place. But the first note that I put is, why is Wild just discovering that she's on crutches directly before bell time? You telling me nobody saw her wandering around the halls at any point in the day, or that she just showed up right before the match started? She didn't get there early. Nobody said, hey, you okay? Nothing. She just like that all day long. Or even if she did come out there, let's just assume that for the sake of argument that no management person did see them. Coming through the curtain, nobody's like, hey, what are you doing? You can't go out there. And let's say that wasn't the case. Let's assume that wasn't. Why would Jessie Jones, by any stretch of the imagination, walk out there? I mean, other than the fact that she's a babyface, but even babyfaces have to concede sometimes. I don't think this needed to be another case of, I have to do it, David. I got to fight. It wasn't necessary. We just saw somebody try to do that. David McClain puts on his matchmaker hat at this point because, he does everything here. He introduces the show. He interviews the people. He makes the matches. He's the lead commentator. He's the general manager and representative out in public. He does it all. And here, he switches off the commentator hat, puts on another hat, and he starts making the matches. Hold on, Jessie Jones, as he, jumps up and gets on the microphone, and I guess he's got a permanent case of laryngitis. I don't know. And Jessie is yelling back at him, and it seems like Jessie's the only person that really gets flack for this. As a heel, she got flack for it when she had justified reason. Now, as a babyface, she has no real reason, and he's protecting her against her better judgment. So she's saying, I got a match. And he's like, no, you can't have a match. This is, I can't let you do it. There's in a discussion. And cutting it off. So he's not being silly, David, either. He's being laying down the law, David. But rather than, because had this been a heel, it would have been, well, you came out here, so you're going to have to, you chose to do it, so you got to wrestle. You're going to have to do a handicap. Sylvia Sanchez and Vivian Rivera versus Americana. That likely would have been the case had it been a heel. But since it's a babyface situation, he had to even the odds. So on the microphone, calls across to Sophia Lopez, you are now going to have to pick which one of your partners. I cannot let you go in here with both of them. Jessie Jones is not going to wrestle, but Americana is, and this isn't verbatim, but I'm just recapping. Americana is, and I need you to pick which one of them is going to wrestle her in this match. So it went from being a scheduled tag team match to a singles match now. Or converted into a singles match, however you want to call it. So we have that. And the person that was chosen is the new addition, Sylvia Sanchez. So it's Sanchez taking on Americana, or as we like to refer to her, the Wish version of Santana Garrett. So she gets out there, and now we've got the match, and Jessie, I forgot to say, Jessie was like, she was fuming hot that she wasn't allowed to wrestle on one leg on the outside with her crutch. Americana had to come over there like, no, it's okay, I got it. So now we've edited the match. I guess I couldn't think of a better word at that time. But now we've got Jessie Jones at ringside with crutches. But we also have Vivian Rivera at ringside along with Sophia Lopez. So technically speaking, they're still outnumbered. Or I should say Americana is still outnumbered. The match, this is probably one of the slower, more basic matches that I have seen, and I don't want to lay that at the feet of Americana, but I kind of have to. So there's portions in here where she just does not move at a very quick pace, but it's enough to kind of tell the story. There's a point where she gets Sanchez down, and she goes for her springboard splash, or I should say handstand splash finish, but Rivera jumps up and pops her as she comes up against the ropes. Rivera did her job here. I mean, she's even though she's not a manager, she looked out for a partner. She did what she could to step in and intervene, help her out when necessary. Of course, doing all this behind the ref's back. Good on her for the timing of getting behind the ref back. I said before, I felt good about Rivera, and I still do. So you got that, and the heels are doing the heel thing. There's a couple of spots in there where I'm sure that they were trying to set and position the referee up for more stuff, but that just didn't take place. But still, they did a good job, and I think Sanchez probably deserves some credit to helping keep this match moving. Maybe I'm being hard on America. I don't know, but sometimes there are portions of her match that just kind of slow down the pace a bit. We'll put it that way. But in any case, Sanchez again, I thought did a nice job. Got Americana up at one point in the match, and this nice sidewalk slam that I thought had some really nice execution, and she worked like a heel. Put her down, goes for the cover. Referee counts, gets the 2. What are you talking about? It's just a 2. Puts her back down, tries it again. Count faster, ref. So I love when the little things are utilized in a match. I did not like the cameras being right in front of Sanchez and Americana when she's got this chin lock on her, because it keeps showing the space between her throat. And it doesn't do Sanchez or Americana, for that matter, any favors. There also was a botch. And, of course, botches happen. They happen to the best of us. But, I guess this was a mix of communication. Americana comes off of the ropes trying to, nail Sanchez. She gives her a kick in the belly, turns like she's about to give her a stunner. Instead of the stunner that she would have given, I believe Sanchez thought it was going to be a neck breaker instead and turned her body to go down, which, she probably should not have did. So in any case, it wasn't a flub up or a botch that was going to really damage anybody or hurt any limbs or something like that. But, it's things like that do cause problems. You want to try and minimize those as much as you can. And it's not like you can't find it. They couldn't even edit that out. I mean, I guess they thought it was enough that, she went down. It wasn't as bad as some of the other things. It wasn't as egregious, but it still was a botch, and it still was very visible. If I had the opportunity, I would have at least tried to edit that out or get another camera shot or clip the cut just a little bit. But getting towards the end, let me find my placing here for where it happened, because there is a point where, of course, the babyface starts to turn things around, and she starts to get a good rally going. Within this rally, she gets she finally is able to hit her finish, her handstand into the, we'll call it standing moonsault. Or backsplash, moonsault, whichever one you want to refer to it as. But the second that she gets her opponent down, here comes Rivera. Rivera hops up on the apron, and now she's getting the attention of the referee. The referee, of course, is now distracted at a screaming, hollering Vivian Rivera. Jessie Jones is on the other side of the ring, hitting the top rope, trying to get the referee's attention with her crutch. While she's doing that, Lopez is coming around, assumably on her blind side, although it doesn't look that way on camera, but we'll give that a pass. So assumably on Jessie Jones's blind side, and comes down with her Halliburton briefcase on the knee of Jessie Jones. I like that I love that Lopez, that all the managers, and I know I've said this, but I love that the managers have all started to get more interactive in their matches, because there was a point in time where they would just stand around. But here she comes over, she pops her in the knee, Jessie Jones goes down. Right? She hits the floor, and she's holding her knee in pain. Meanwhile, Americana gets up, does the old baby face, what are you doing? As she's screaming at Rivera. And Sanchez comes behind, hooks the leg, gets a great roll up, and hooks the tights. And there it is. Sylvia Sanchez wins the match. Lopez has her winner, I was going to say winners, but she has her winner, and she's now getting her organization back on track. In much the same way that earlier we saw Samantha Smart now getting her organization back on track. So they are moving along with some of these heels and heels factions to at least get them to the point they have some sort of credibility, because none of them had it. Not one. If you went back like 2 seasons, not one of those managers had any credibility. It was just loss after loss after loss after loss. But at least now they have some credibility. I don't mind the loss, but you want to see them get a win every once in a while. I can remember, and this will relate to wrestling, I promise you, if you listen to that. But I can remember looking at I'm going to call it a director's commentary. I think it was more the writers and producers, but we'll say director's commentary. But it was a director's commentary on Justice League Unlimited. You remember that cartoon? Some of y'all might, some of you might not. It's really good. Really, really good cartoon. Animated series. And I'm not going to say not for kids, but certainly, they had some themes in it that I think would go over kids' heads. But in either case, they were talking about a particular episode that they wrote. I think it was called Task Force X. And it was a collective of basically it was the Suicide Squad. Like, hey, we got these bad guys here, and let's put them to use. So they have them go and break into the satellite, the watchtower, and try to retrieve some information. The point of me bringing that up is the writers were like, when you're writing for villains, at some point the villain has to win. Because if you continuously put a villain up against a hero that they're outmatched, and basically inside the hero's going to win, ultimately, it does destroy your ability to suspend the disbelief when that person is always losing. It would, I don't know, it'd be like Batman going up against Condiment Man, and that's an actual character, by the way. And that uses like ketchup and mustard and stuff. Like he's an absolute comedy character in DC. But it would be like that, and DC expecting you to take it seriously. Like, hey, why what do you mean you don't believe the Condiment Man can win? Because he's never won. So that's the point there that they were saying is like, you have to give your villains something. They have to win sometimes in order to at least allow the suspension of disbelief that the hero has to do something, have to dig a little deeper. They have to find another way, to get by or get over this threat. Because if you don't recognize it as a threat, it's hard for you to suspend the disbelief. You don't go into a Fast and Furious movie expecting Dominic Toretto to fail. He's going to win somehow. The question is, how is he going to overcome whatever threat that they line up? And I know that went off. That had absolutely nothing to do with wrestling, but it does have something to do with storytelling. And I just wanted to make sure that we got that across. Now, before I go into the main event, there was another segment that took place, and this is the Mother Truckers segment. We'll call it that. So if you saw a few weeks back, after a match with the Mother Truckers and Samantha Smart and her team, the end of the show had Samantha Smart calling I was going to say a tow company, but we don't know that. Calling someone and getting the Mother Truckers' big rig taken away. Not just taken away, mind you. Getting it taken and removed to Jackson, Tennessee. So, and keep in mind, remember, Wild takes place in Los Angeles. So this person is, not this person, Samantha Smart is getting this truck taken essentially cross country. Now, why it was necessary to go to Tennessee, I don't know. I just do not know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me to want to do that. I looked it up. From Los Angeles to Jackson, Tennessee. Now, we're not talking about any specific spot. We're just talking about city to city. That's a 28-hour drive. 1,882 miles across 4 states. No, sorry, 5. Is it 5? Yeah, okay, across 5 states. I probably should not give this kind of thought and effort to angles and storylines that they came up with, especially things that this absurd and ridiculous. But I mean, good grief! Like, who would do this? Who would do this? any tow company that takes you anywhere, like you get like 100 miles or something like that. You know, let me not say that because different tow companies have different variations of the mileage they would cover. But even with that, we don't know if it was a tow company, like I said, because when you get into the segment and you actually see what's happening, because in this episode, the truckers come out looking for their truck so they can go to the hotel or wherever they're going to go, and they've discovered that it's not there. And now they got to find their truck. And somehow they're just like, oh, well, you know, they came across somebody who had some sort of information like, oh, yeah, it's, you know, out this way or whatever. So they have to catch a bus. Now, this is all being shot, apparently, because, you know, they come out of the building, the cameras are there, and they're, hey, where's your partner? Where's the truck at? You know, and all that stuff. So now they decide that they got to go and go track it down. And as they're doing this, of course, this is where the conversation is between the two of them, the mother and the daughter, taking place. I bet you it's that Samantha Smart, and she ain't smart enough to do that. Yeah, but she's smart enough to get somebody to do it, and blah, 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 blah. Again, I think this plan is stupid. This plan is stupid. They could have literally taken that truck and driven it to, or had it moved to San Diego, which is closer, and it would have still been hard to find. You could have done it inside the city, and then, you know, and it would have been hard to find. Just having them track it down in California, not California, just having them track it down in Los Angeles. Why did it have to go across the country to Jackson? And why did they have to catch the bus when we've established that they both have their own vehicle? One of them has a truck. The other one has a tow truck. And do you know what kind of effort it would take to drive a big rig truck, get their truck away? We can only assume that there were no security devices in there. I mean, I know some guys, you know, and family members and friends that drove trucks, and I've never known them to basically turn that thing off. They left it on because, for the most part, they knew that most people are not going to be able to hop it. Even if they get in the truck, they're not going to be able to drive this thing away unless you have trained for it. You know, they pay people to do that, you know, to get the CDLs and so they can be able to handle those things. So whoever it is that Samantha Smart got, they clearly had a CDL. I mean, I'm not going to say that that's going to be difficult for her to find. I just don't understand the plan. Or why they had to somehow catch the bus to Jackson, Tennessee to get this thing. Or that they didn't have any family members, you know, that could have done something for them. Like, hey, would you get this thing and lock it up and we'll come back? I mean, because what are you here? Are you truck drivers in California, or are you rustlers? I know a lot of times in the wild universe, the occupation becomes more important than you being a rustler. But which one is it? Because this is a story that there's portions of this that I have a hard time swallowing. If this is your job, let's just say that for the sake of this story, there's two scenarios that can be portrayed. Either they are rustlers who drive a truck on the side, or they are truck drivers who rustle on the side. So let's go with option one. Option one is that there are rustlers who happen to truck drive. This is my personal vehicle. Now, if that's the case, shouldn't it just be reported stolen? I mean, I know that's a lot of thought, but you probably could have gotten the same amount of drama that they put into this if they had to go through and call the cops and they were fuming over it, rather than, hey, we got to go all the way back to Jackson and then go all the way back to Los Angeles immediately. Only on television does that seem like a feasible idea, because they cut away everything. When you're watching it on their show, it looks like Los Angeles, Tennessee, Los Angeles. Boom, boom, boom. Now, I know, of course, you're editing this, and it's been weeks, so they probably could have. But, you know, like, why? Why are we doing this? And then when they get to Tennessee, there's already cameras set up there. And, I have to keep coming back to saying, yes, I know that this is, you have to allow concessions for television and showbiz and stuff like that. But it could have probably worked just as well if they walked in there with their cell phone recording themselves. So it looked a little bit more legitimate rather than a staged theft. I mean, if he wanted to get people to, kind of at least suspend disbelief a little bit. So they catch the bus. No particular bus line. They don't identify that. And they go back all the way to Jackson, Tennessee. And somehow go immediately to the location where this truck is. Now, I know Jackson is not a huge city, but it ain't small either. And I'm pretty sure they could have had multiple places. But they somehow go directly. They asked around. They got the right location, and they go to this stable, it looks like. It wasn't even in a trucking yard or something like that. It wasn't behind a fence. It wasn't locked up or nothing. Just here. It's open. They walk up to this guy. Hey, that truck over there, which is and is playing like it's in an open area, so it's not even hidden. And then somebody had to point out to me, because I didn't pay attention to it the first time. But one of my coworkers pointed out to me, it's like, why is that woman back there sweeping the dirt? Then I looked, I was like, yeah, she's out here with this thing just, kind of sweeping around. It's like, well, there's nothing on the ground and she's just sweeping dirt. Like, it's just, we're outside. So that's what he meant. He was like, she's outside on a dirt plane just sweeping dirt around. Assumably just so she had something to do on camera so she didn't look like just a prop, but still, it's just silly. So so anyway, like I said, the truckers get to this stable, looks like. The truck is there and is not hidden or behind other trucks or anything like that. So I guess this person either knew the person that drove it across or he came from Los Angeles with their keys and just so happened to still have the keys in his pocket. Like, I'm thinking the quickest scenario that this could have happened in is at least a day. That maybe two. Because apparently when the truck was sent out there, it's not like they followed it immediately. So, but yeah, let's go to the first thing. That the fastest scenario that this could have been in is a day and some change. So that would have negated them sleeping or, whatever the case, that they would have just had to, the guy that drove would have had to just drive straight on, right? Now, they could have been behind him on the bus and slept, but, whoever it is, either he had a partner or maybe the woman that was sweeping the dirt to help him along, right? When you get there, you don't settle down or go inside a building or put the keys away. The man literally just was walking around there for whatever reason, and just had the keys in his back pocket. And yeah, very convenient. Very, very convenient for them. So the truckers get there. They see him. Like I said, she asked about the truck. Hey, we need our keys. And up until then, I didn't even know Samantha Smart somehow stole the keys. So we're going to assume that the keys were just sitting inside the truck, which again, actually, I can buy that because I do know truck drivers, like I said, who leave their trucks running. So the guy's like, yeah, I'll give you the keys and, I can just wrestle me for it. Being the typical pseudo-rapist, again, paper thin. Sleazeball on screen, looks like a sleazeball, therefore is, paper thin. She says, yeah, I'm okay, I'll wrestle him. Goes over, kicks him in the balls, goes directly towards his pocket, pulls out the keys, like, I got him, and then they walk off, get into the truck and drive away. assumably now heading back towards Los Angeles for their near 30-hour drive. I understood the want to do this vignette, and it shot well. It just, like I said, in my world, it defies some logic. It just has some plot hole points for me. That's all. Because I know the first thing that in a real world setting, the first thing that they're gonna do is like, all right, look, I'm calling the cops. So either you get my truck back here or you go into jail. End of story. That would have been less dramatic, but let's face it. You walk outside and your ride is gone. If you got a phone, that's probably where you're going to do. And it's not like they was in the middle of nowhere. They literally just left their job, or at least one of them. They could have walked right back in that building like, hey, look, I need to use the phone, and somebody need to tell me what Samantha Smart is because I'm about to whoop her ass or something. You know what I mean? If you came to the conclusion that Samantha Smart was responsible for this, and they did, and, you have a phone, and it's your primary source of transportation, the real world solution would have been, I'm calling the cops and reporting this thing stolen. They got some kind of crazy insurance on that. But anyway, I know that's going into like super realism, but come on. The driving the truck to Jackson is just absurd when they could have gotten the same mileage out of, no pun intended, they could have gotten the same mileage out of saying, hey, they stole it, drove it around, to the other side of Los Angeles or up to Frisco or San Diego or, something that's not 1,800 miles away. That's just ridiculous. Because all she wanted to do was hide it from them and get it away from them, which is what she did. And, but God, this is like a theft. Well, it is theft. And they didn't bother because we're going to take the law into our own hands. The rewrite of this, for me, the rewrite would have been, they come outside, car stolen, yelling at the sky, cussing up a storm, get the censor button ready. Call the cops, and I'm going in to find Samantha Smart right now. That would have been the lines given to Big Rig Betty. Finds her. I know it was you. I don't know what you're talking about. No, I know it was you. Mad because we would really you're gonna take my truck away because you're mad because we won. You got about 10 seconds to get on the phone and get my truck back here or else. Now we've established some heat. If I don't call her, what you gonna do about it? I got money. We'll just say that she has some money. And I get myself out. Matter of fact, I'm smart enough. I can represent myself. I had nothing to do with your thing, and you can't prove it. Fine. I tell you what, I'll go see David McClain about this. I'll settle it myself. Done. Over with. Finish. And I could have gone to any number of stipulations from that point out. Started off next week like, hey, look, we found out what's going on. We're still looking for my truck. But I got some news for you, Samantha Smart, and then you lay out whatever stipulations you have. And if I win, I get 5 minutes with you in the ring. Now we're cooking. We're getting somewhere. And they may well go there anyway, but, I'm just saying it's another way to go. Main event time. They set this up talking about how we got to this. The retelling of various things that took place weeks prior up until this match, and including why Leia McCoy was not in the gauntlet match that they fictionalized that she should have been in the first place. Now, she probably was in it, but like I said, that they changed some things. In this case, they changed, and Leia McCoy, who was on her way to the championship match, got injured before she was able to go, and therefore got reassigned by Penelope Pink, and she won the title. So now the retelling isn't that Penelope Pink got some sort of made up wild card. Now she just took so-and-so's spot because she was hurt and she couldn't compete. So she's a direct line to her winning the championship, despite the fact that she was eliminated from being able to win the championship the week prior. You still with me? Because I'm not. Even I'm saying this and that sounds confusing. So they lay all that out. And like I said, up to the point where we have now this faction versus faction war, 4-on-4. For no particular thing other than, we got beef, and this is getting serious, and we got to settle this, and we got to settle it now. Good enough for me. Doesn't need much more than that. I like that they all have intertwining plot lines and stories, even though I don't like the fact that WoW kind of retold some of it. The fact of the matter is the things that the people have seen are good enough. They don't have to try to make this, and they keep shoehorning this, and Vickie Lynn's the centerpiece. She's the glue. She's the nucleus of the, like, how? She didn't do anything. Let her just be the enforcer. She's taken on the task of, hey, and if you want to get these championships, you got to go through me. You don't have to try to make her out to be something bigger than what she is. She hasn't been the glue. She hasn't been responsible for anybody maintaining it. And a lot of times I really think WoW just assumes that either people's memories are bad or they do not watch the show or this is the first show that they saw. So therefore, everything that we tell you, you'll just take it. But yeah, they all have some intertwining story. We just saw Leia Makoa lose, and it didn't need to be she got her spot or something. She literally got cheated out of the match. She was on the way to victory until she got a sharp detour into defeat via Lana Star and Penelope Pink holding the tights and clutching down on that roll up. That was good enough. She got cheated out of a championship she should have won. That's motivation. Tiki Chamorro was pretty much being bullied by him. Now, they never got the chance to lay a hand on her because the Tonga Twins came out. And that was the point where they essentially adopted her into their, not the Tonga Twins. Makoa came out the first time. And then the Tonga Twins on another episode. But the point being is that they inserted themselves into her world and chose to protect her. And so that's, that right there is something. And of course, they came out and saved her when she had a match against one of the Fab Four earlier in the sixth person. And the twins, the two sets of twins. Of course, we know that they were like the beginning pieces of this. The babyface Miami Sweet Heat up until they got to the finals, where it was theoretically a babyface versus babyface, but they never established the Tonga Twins as babyface at that time. So you had this theoretical match of babyface versus babyface until they turned and went with Lana Star and helped form what became the Fabulous Four. It all intertwines. It all works. I think that, it didn't need extra embellishment. What they had was good enough. I wish it would have built to this, but what they had was good enough. Now, I'd also said to the same coworker that I was talking about, the lady sweeping the dirt, because he was like, man, he wasn't invested in it. And I said at that point, well, I would have liked for it to have more build up too. But, and this is a pivotal point, if this is not a major climax point, which let's say like a War Games, that was kind of served the purpose of having the baby faces be able to win and defeat the heels without the heels losing championships and position and things like that. We'll beat the group. We haven't beat you individually. So the superpowers and road warriors can go over the horsemen without the horsemen losing a lot of ground. And that's as if this 4 person match, this 4-women match, is that if it is the means by which the babyfaces get to come in, defeat the heels, and the heels still maintain their position, and we get a jump-off point from here on out of interchanging matches where the Tonga Twins can take on Pink and Vickie Lynn, or Makoa and Chamorro can go after the tag team championships one week, or, the Chamorro could get the underdog fight for the championship. There's any number of ways that they can go with this. If this is a jump off leading into some of that and then to a major championship match, then I'm okay with it. If this were just here just to fill a spot and then vanish, that's when I'm like, oh God, come on, why, guys? That's when I would have that reaction. So I was like, we have to sit and see the match to see where this is going before we give that kind of judgment. And he was fine with that and glad of it because the match was good. The match was good. I thought this match was what it needed to be. The second that bell rang, it was chaos. And, you got all 4 of them in there. They started off hard. They started off hot. You had, varying matchups there. Chamorro was against the Enforcer. Pink was against Makoa. The twins were against the other twins. And they were just all over the place. And this was good. Didn't have to be a technical masterpiece. Didn't have to go for a long period of time. Didn't have to be some 20-minute back and forth classic. It was what it needed to be by terms of personality. It was what it needed to be by terms of angle. It was what it needed to be, by terms of the conflict that they have painted the picture for leading to this point. And it seemed like most everybody, I'm not even going to say most everybody, from Lana Star to Penelope Pink to the Twins to Vickie Lynn to Makoa to the Tonga Twins to Chamorro, everybody was firing on all cylinders. It's like they came out motivated to do as good as they could possibly do to make this work. And if there's a match that you should look at from WoW, and I'm going to say anywhere in its history, this is probably going to be that match. Up until this point, my favorite match had been Jungle Girl versus Tadavik the Gamer. Not like it again, wasn't a 20-minute classic, but it was simple, it was basic, and it was a good storytelling match. Here, this was a good storytelling match with all the extras of the violence that they could portray. Like, I never got the impression that there was, hey, we're going to have a nice, respectful match, guys. Nope. It was just all like, I hate you. We're gonna do this, beat you as hard as humanly possible. Now, of course, that you're going to see points where they're not really smacking each other like that, but it's a fun match. It is a fun match. I can't say anything less than as it relates to that. The brawl did settle down, but it settled down to what I would say a controlled brawl or controlled action. I don't know how you want to phrase that. Because it wasn't like it was all over the place, but they did, still kind of maintain some intensity there, even facially and what have you. I thought the Carlson Twins were really good in their position here. Having seen them on the independents, I think they have continued to grow. I really want to see them go someplace and take their act to another location. Not saying leave, not leave WoW, but it would be nice to see them go after the women's NWA Tag Team Championships or the Impact Knockouts Tag Team Championships. I think they are building their reputation and their stock up. And to the same note, the Tonga Twins probably should try that at some point also. One thing I have noticed, and you probably heard this if I did the edit that I'm thinking of doing, but you probably heard at the beginning the audio from one of the twins. Now, I don't remember if it's Kona or Chaos, but the promo that she did had a lot of passion behind it, a lot of passion, a lot of fire. It's not hard to get behind people who give you that. Which is why I've always kept going like, I wish they would do more promos. I really wish they would so we could get the feel the passion that was delivered. So I guess we have to get back to some point where we can talk about the match, or at least how it kind of ended up. It was a nice back and forth match. The heels healed up good. The baby faces did the same, did the baby face stuff. Chamorro, she did the underdog deal a couple of times in there. The Tongans got to get in there and look strong, with a nice, the APA used to do something like this. It was a nice sidewalk slam. I mean, they all got to do their thing. And I would have gone into this thinking that Leia Makoa would have been like the overall star, but I actually think the Tonga Twins were kind of somewhat of a show stealer here. So at the end, the Twins are tagged in, and they more or less clean house. I mean, they give the double spine buster, which is what I was thinking of with the APA a second ago, to Vickie Lynn McCoy. They drop both of the Carlson Twins. I was about to say the Gohart Twins. That is their name on the indies, by the way. And then Penelope Pink comes off of the ropes, and they catch her, and they do a double fall-away slam. That one got kind of away from them a little bit, but fortunately for them, the editors did the best job that they could here. They saved that so it doesn't look bad on screen. So the Twins have basically cleaned house. They have taken out every member of the Fabulous Four minus Lana Starr because, she's the manager and she didn't get in there. So this kind of reignites a little bit of a brawl. On the outside, Makoa goes after Pink after she has been thrown, with the follow-away slam, and she kind of rolls out. Makoa catches her. Pink throws her being Makoa, into the guardrail. And then Chamorro comes off out of nowhere on top of Pink. The Carlson Twins put the full Nelson lock on both of the Tonga Twins, holding them for Vickie Lynn McCoy. But McCoy charges in. The Tongans break free. McCoy double clotheslines both of the Miami Sweet Heat. The Tonga Twins, I keep having to remind myself there's two sets of twins here. The Tonga Twins hit their finish on Vickie Lynn McCoy, and boom, 1, 2, 3, they won the match. And nice enough that one of the Carlsons tried to get in there to stop it. And again, I love seeing the small things like that. That somebody is thinking about, hey, if this were real, what would I be doing? Well, she tried her best to get in there after, and she looked the part. She looked like she was struggling and tired, but just couldn't make it. And the other Tonga twin fought her off, while the other set of twins, she just was a little bit too little too late. And again, it's the facials, the look on her face like, gosh, because she was seconds, inches away from being able to save her. She just couldn't make it. It's like she's crying on the mat. So, I mean, if this is I'm not going to say it's a one-match show. It's not. It's not a one-match show. The matches were fine, but this is the match that saves the show overall in terms of, like, if you were going to rate this thing, because this has the angle behind it. This has something that has an ongoing story. The Amber Rodriguez Stephy Slays match was a cold match, like I said, but it was decent, just didn't have anything attached to it. The Disciplinarian and GI Jane match versus Campanelli and Rah Rah, they made an angle out of right then and there, and I guess it could go somewhere, but that's the beginning of that. So it didn't really, have a lot. It was nice. It was good, and like I said, it's good for the Disciplinarian and GI Jane, but that's just the start. The Sanchez Americana match. Again, it kind of had an angle going into it, but it was an angle not relative to Lopez, Sanchez, or Rivera. So, and the match was what it was, decent, but hey, wasn't anything going into that either. The main event, however, had something going into it. And I can say nothing else but they delivered. It was short, but good. And I guess when I think about it, it didn't have to be long. Like a War Games match has to be long because how it's set. War Games is, okay, we're going to start with these two guys and then one and then another and then every 2 minutes. So you're going to get at least, 10 minutes before they even get to the meat of the match or something, something along those lines, depending on how many people are participating, whether it's 3, 4, or 5 teams. So, it just depends. And the segments of intervals. Those matches have to be long. They're main events on pay-per-views. You got to deliver the goods to give people what they want. Here, it did those things. It delivered the goods. It gave the people what they wanted. And I think this match actually got them up. It got the crowd up. They wanted to see them win. And there's a nice shot when everybody's got their hands raised in there. And honestly, I know the people out there are entertained by a while, but sometimes it doesn't reflect in the crowd. But they got up for this. You can look at this show a lot of times and just see, them kind of sitting on their hands. But when the Tonga Twins won this match, there was visible applause and adulation, happiness. This is what it should be. And I can only imagine if that was how much more, not relieving, but how much more it would have been for the crowd if it had a huge build or a stronger build to it. But as it is, they were into it. The action was good, easy to follow. And like I said, they delivered on, they didn't promise you anything, but they delivered the goods in that. It's a B+ show. It still gave me interest. And I'm interested in seeing where this feud will go. And if the Fabulous Four will turn around and get their heat back. Back in the day, it was a case of, and I'll use the Horsemen again. It was a case of the Horsemen getting back on TV like nothing went wrong. They just brushed it off like it wasn't nothing big. Yeah, so what? I mean, I'm still the world's champion, so boo-hoo. I would have won if, or something like that. So these are the moments where I think they should be prepping to help push the personas of some of these people a little bit more so we can invest in them, invest in Leia McCoy and maybe her quest to become the champion. Invest in Tiki Chamorro and maybe her quest to, overcome these odds that the Fabulous Four are doing and me do it on my own without my bigger sisters helping me. Or maybe it's the quest for the Tonga Twins to get back at, get that rematch, that lusted for, wanted rematch that they've been, waiting to have for weeks against Miami Sweet Heat. Maybe it's those things. And maybe those are things that we find out, the motivations, the why. Or find out why Lana Star is so high strung on wanting to maintain these championships. What do these championships mean to her? What extra oomph is it that you having these does for this group, or for Lana Star specifically? Those are the questions that I would want answered in promos or vignettes or whatever. I don't think I'm gonna get it, but I would love it. But in any case, that was the show, and it was enjoyable. Largely because of the main event, but enjoyable. B+. And with that, I will close this particular one and prepare for next week's episode and an upcoming interview with a young lady that you may see in your local wrestling scene, Brittany Brooks. In fact, speaking of Brittany Brooks, if anybody was a custom-made wrestler for a while, she might be. But you'll find that out during the interview if you listen to that. And in closing, folks, thank you for listening to the show. As always, I appreciate your time and that you have either downloaded this or listened to it on YouTube or whatever greater podcast platforms there may be. And if you haven't subscribed, please do it. It helps out the various algorithms across the board, and it helps this channel if you're on YouTube. So again, in closing, this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.